building essentials and exercises. We're gonna do some uh, some freelance stuff here. We're gonna talk about mostly world building, specifically a part of my world called the Windswept Dreary. But we're gonna bounce around all over the place. Uh, I thought Bart was gonna hang out with us, but apparently he's only interested in getting out. So we're gonna let him out of our little. Oh, well, now he doesn't want to go. Do you want to go? I can't. You can't go that way. So now we're trying to figure out the logistics of getting him out the door. All right. This is quality start to the video. All right. So this is relating to the campaign I'm running. Campaign started in the the Heston Authority, an area known as the London Vale. All these maps are on Incarnate and scattered around my YouTube station. So this was Heston, where we got started, small city. This whole area is pretty low density, very cold. Some of these mountains you can see are extraordinarily high, making Mount Everest look pretty wimpy. Um, Now, there were episodes where I started to talk about the Dareberg River Valley and the world building I was doing there. That was quite a while ago. Um, it's significantly different in climate. It's much warmer, and it has some strange weather, weather that's uh, heat storms, very very dangerous, um, and much different, and than what is an Earth equivalent. Uh, Now, it's different from the North, where the party's from, um, which overall is pretty normal, pretty pretty Canadian. Uh, very cold winters, but good summers. Uh, and you can survive the winters. You can, if you're an adventuring team, doesn't have any problem getting around out there. But the Dareberg River Valley, I mean, it's much closer to like in Egypt even. I mean, it's warm, it's wet. The life depends upon the river. Um, Hello, my two visitors. I hope you stick around. My name is Lewis Nichols, and we're doing some world building today. It's a 5e setting, Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll just go on and hope you enjoy. Uh, so this Dareberg River Valley area, it's kind of a lawful evil feel, devil friendly. Fiends have been a major part of the campaign from the beginning. For those of you just tuning in, we'll flip this back around if I can. Yeah, so this was our launching point for what we're mostly talking about today, and I don't really have a set time limit for how long I'm gonna jabber. This is done on Incarnate, by the way. If you didn't notice, there was a war fever in the far north, and uh, in game we played out the siege of Malice, and this is all now part of the Heston Authority in that farther northern area. Now I was talking about the weather a little bit. I'll keep talking about the weather. Even here, there's problems with heat storms. Uh, and by heat storms, I mean that it makes it difficult to live outside. Temperatures can fly up way over 150, sometimes almost to the boiling point. Normal people are not going to survive the storms, and they're short-lived storms. They last a few minutes, but still, you last a few minutes in 200-degree temps and see how it does for you. Uh, it's done some things. Obviously, the ecology is significantly different, but you also have cultural adaptations to where you have shelters built, kind of like tornado shelters. Um, a cool grandpa, huh? All right. Well, I guess that's legit. Uh, these shelters, you have kind of a non confrontational, kind of a truce when you're in or around the shelters, especially when they're actually in use because of the bad weather. So, this is where the party got used to an introduction to the South. But we always knew they were going to be traveling farther south, into what the party kind of knew as the wastes. Now, it turns out the wastes are a much more diverse area than just, a big desert. Now, this is also done on Incarnate, and I hand it printed off. Kind of a first run. There's some things that I could edit different, and some of the areas need to be added if I really wanted to turn into it. I need to add detail if I wanted to turn it into something something more marketable, as a fantasy poster. But it works for purposes of the campaign, and that's really what it's mostly for. I don't have any kind of pointer, so except my finger, so we'll do that. So this is the area that we're mostly looking at, the Windswept Dreary. This is what we're looking at today. This here is the river valley that I was just talking about, and this is where the campaign started, an area about the size of Germany. Very much defined geographically and culturally by the size of these mountains. The Dreary Wastes, very similar to the Windswept Dreary, but less populated. It is definitely a different world building zone. The Windswept Dreary is heavily populated by orcs, giants, and you have some mixture of other stuff too. All your usual D&D races, really whatever you want to throw in, but it is very orc dominated. And this isn't really civilized orcs. This isn't, out of the new player's handbook. This is old monster manual orcs. Very rough societies, chaotic governments, weak governments, mostly run by the strong. So when I was working on the Windswept Dreary, there were things that I knew I wanted. I wanted a very alien feel. Here it is, a little bit easier to see. By that, obviously there's the weather, more than just heat storms. I've thrown in fiery tornadoes and acid rain, and very unhospitable. So how does anybody survive here? You can see there's a number of cities. This is an area about the size of the southern U.S., the old South. So how do people survive here? Well, mostly in the cities, they get by a function of magic in a way. Well, it's definitely magic. I'm sure you're all familiar with this concept that some of the greater beings, like ancient dragons and stuff, have an effect on their surroundings. That is true here. And all of these cities are built over the resting places of enormous, powerful entities. The vast majority of them in slumber, meditating. These are some of the biggest, nastiest monsters that you're going to find out of the books, out of the 5e Dungeons and Dragons books. I didn't want to come up with all new stuff. Some of them will be original. I haven't actually delineated every single one of them yet. But you have the critters out of let's see, where's my chart? Get recentered here. The creatures out of Bigby's, talking about giants, the cradled creatures like Surtur, and there's several others as well. Mimnor and Stromanus. Virtually gods. in my campaign setting, gods are, they don't have stat blocks, but if you're stat blocking your gods, then these are the kinds of creatures that you're dealing with. Extremely powerful, able to fight. Very powerful adventuring teams. Um, so the presence of these resting beings creates kind of a bubble, kind of a safe zone. It mitigates the worst of the weather of the region. Now, if you know the sands, the wastes, you can get around out there. You can travel. You just have to be mindful of the weather. You have to be prepared for shelter, and you have to have a plan. Uh, that doesn't mean that everybody survives every encounter with the terrible things that are out there, but it means that there is a trade economy between the cities, that there are people in the wastes. Uh, One of the biggest impacts when you're moving around from a kind of a, let's say, normal D&D setting, if there is a such thing as a normal D&D setting, um, so many of these beasts that you're used to being just adversaries are suddenly part of city life. The cities and villages, the entire feel of the area is built to accommodate giants. It's not all giant warriors. You have families, you have kids. You have the stone giants that aren't tough enough by stone giant standards to go out and be in war parties and wreak havoc upon the neighbors. They're craftsmen. They're street workers. I mean, they can be anybody. You see, science fiction does a good job of taking these crazy aliens and turning them into cooks or just filling normal job positions. Well, this is it. If you go to the local stir fry shop, maybe it's a hill giant that's behind the sushi bar. Um, don't want to underplay it. It is rough and tumble. Uh, a lot of the streets are controlled by street gangs as opposed to that they're taking up that position of the strong central government, because there is no strong central government. The strong central government, uh, the closest thing they have in these most of these cities is a group of powerful beings ruling in the name of the Magus Centrum, uh, and they'll hit the big red button if they feel threatened and wake that guy up. It's actually part of recent lore. We were talking about the siege of Malice, where the strong man of Malice used to be um, well, he still is what he is. He's just not the strong man of Malice anymore. Very high level fighter, got some other tricks, got friends. Used to travel with a gold dragon because I'm doing something in my world that it's not so much good versus evil. It's more about law versus chaos, and it makes for a different feel, makes for a different mix of allies. But where you can have your traditional lawful good gold dragon working with a devil, uh, um, a devil collusioner with lawful evil. But so this guy was driven out of his home city, um, driven out of the place he had ruled for over a decade, and he ended up going south and tried to exert his will over one of the cities down here, and it didn't work out. And he ended up breaking open one of the cradles and unleashing Surtur. It was not good news for the town, the city, and now there's a refugee problem with people trying to escape. Surtur survived. The big bad fighter has run off to find some other place to try to restart. Um, but it's going to take a while for the city to become livable again, for the weather and water supplies even to stabilize, and for uh, the big demigod to settle back down in his cradle, and the cradle heal. So you're probably talking about 5, 10 year process. You might have some people trying to move in a little early, people who just won't stay away from home, but the whole thing might go south again too. They might end up disturbing him and starting the whole process all over again. It's not like these guys want to be awake. They're in slumber for a reason, and these powerful entities just don't work well with polite society. So uh, the cities needed to be similar enough that I didn't have to world build 15 cities, but different enough to they are isolated. Um, they have different percentages of orcs, different levels of civility. Uh, they're, like I keep saying, they're all weak as far as the central government goes, but that still leaves a lot of room that some are more powerful than others. You might have merchant interests that are more significant one place than another. You might have religious interests that are more significant in one place or another. Did a lot of work with outside pantheons and the idea of the non divine, but still by the populace considered divine. There are a number of beings that are worshipped as gods and even have temples, but they're not true gods. I also have, I did something a little different with the ordning. The ordning is not what it was out of the books in my in this region in my world. It's a religion that among the uh, among the giants mostly, but some others too. And it is a religion of structure. It's about how beings should interact, but it's a non-deity centered religion. Something I picked up on out of which one of the books was it? The one with the deserts where there was yeah, Eberron. Um, it fits really in 5e, the idea of a godless religion that still produces and supports clerics and temples and churches, um, and I think it fits better for the way a lot of people think today, uh, the, especially younger people that are so far removed from what religious life might have been, in the even in the 70s, but my they don't know people that went to church, and they don't, they're not necessarily atheists, but you can tell it carries on into their gaming, that they just don't have that background in faith, and that's cool. I mean, there's I got no problem with that. I'll even support it. But it does make for some opportunities that weren't necessarily recognized before. Like when I was younger, with different ways to organize priesthoods and temples and religions and role playing games. Um, One of the interesting things I think also in the way 5e is set up is that you can have these interesting religious groups that are warlock based instead of priest cleric based, with with uh, the overseers, the patrons of the warlocks, being the religious figure, but they're not supporting clerics. Although you can have a mix of clerics and warlocks, they're there to support. Uh, they can support a religion without clerics. Um, so we've been talking for a little while. Let me do a little reintroduction. My name is Lewis Nichols. The channel is World Building Essentials and Exercises. We do world building here. It's not necessarily directly to do with D&D, but that also can have to do with any kind of game world. Now, we are a little focused most of the time on 5e type worlds, and I am adopting straight into the 2024 rule set. Although the old stuff is still extremely relevant. Obviously, the rest of the content a fully functional, fleshed out system for 2024 rules isn't going to be here for at least 2 years. Um, and so even people that are eager to make a transition can only go so fast. Today, we are talking about some world building on my campaign world, specifically the uh, the the Windswept Dreary. It's an area of sand and orcs, uh, lithic creatures too. Not in overabundance, but lithics are stone-based creatures, creatures that eat rocks. Uh, they can't survive just eating any rocks. Some of them have to be more specialized, eating stones and minerals that are precious to an extent. Now, there are grazers, just like, a cow doesn't live by eating high quality food. Cows live by eating lots and lots of low quality food. So you have lots of room for a variety. Now, continuing on with religion, one of the things I did was made sure that I had a good feel for what these religions looked like, what they were, and what their presence in the city was. So, uh, and I'm looking through my papers right now because I have this somewhere. I pulled a few deities out of a local, uh, semi-local uh, areas. There we go. So the gods of the Vale uh, are primarily wilderness, weather, winter type gods. But I wanted to have that influence because it's close enough that, I mean, if people travel, even if it's not heavily traveled. People spread the word, and sometimes they just fit. And there's not a formal pantheon with hegemony over the Windswept Dreary. Uh, so from the Vale, I took the god of cold and demons. Demons is the important part. Uh, the London Vale has had a long history of questionable relationships with devils and demons and evil in general. Um, Another god I picked out was Halavota Midrigata, god of the sun. It made a lot of sense to me. This is a very sunny place, and it translated directly. And the god does, excuse me, the god does have a foothold down here, and it's one of the closest things to a mercy god that the entire area has. It's not a super powerful church, but I mean they're they're there. They have priests. They have temples. It's a civilizing effect. Uh, and I took Windsong, which is one of the elven gods from the north, god of weather and summer storms. And since it's always summer, down here that pretty much means all storms. Now, hey, somebody gave me a like. I appreciate that. Um, I also picked out a couple of deities from another nearby pantheon. These are not nice guys. These are the kind of gods that you worship to keep bad things from happening. You're not asking for a new bicycle for Christmas. You're asking, please don't take my bicycle away for Christmas. The pantheon name is Descending Entropy. I know, sounds scary, right? I took up Lermidon, which is the spoiler of clean waters. If you want to keep your water nice and pure to drink, say a little prayer to Lermidon. It's going to help. And Cardin Evosa, the god of erosion. So if you don't want your stuff to decay and erode away before your eyes, maybe a yearly sacrifice would be a good idea. Now, the other deities, I've got an odd mix. Uh, for example, the Grumish. One of the old gods from D&D, a god of orcs. He is a principal god in the area. You have uh, Orcus, whose status is unknown. He is worshipped as a god. He has temples. As far as the party knows, they haven't stumbled across one of his clerics yet, and as far as they know, he's not actually formally a deity. But, you know, something must be going on if he's got temples, right? Uh, let's see. Is that the end of my list? I think it is. Oh, no, it's not. Uh, we also have the Order, the Coven of Supernatural Fire. This is a group of warlock spiritualists, and they are pretty much exclusive to the city that my party is currently visiting. Um, and they are warlocks. It's not a church of priests, but it is a group of uh, of warlocks, spiritual warlocks that have formed a church, a religious system surrounding the Magus Centrum of that city. Magus Centrum being the powerful being that rests in the city and keeps the weather mitigated, makes it livable. It is a Hephaestia, it is Hephaestia, a giant fire dragon. Out of the books, what do they call it? It's out of the one with the dragons. He's a chromantic great worm. If you want to look up a stat block. One of the big, 25 plus DC monsters. No, CR monsters out of the books. All right. So the city itself, Gumish Rory. I wanted to have some fun with it. This was the party's first encounter. When they were approaching the city, the group, they're a flying group now. They have wyverns and hippogriffs that they've acquired over the levels. They're fairly powerful. My campaign, my group is they're all 11th level now, and they've in the last few sessions picked up the last of the mounts they need to be a flying party. Uh, it changes things, but it was time. Quite frankly, if they had taken levels a little bit differently, they'd be teleporting everywhere now, so it's not much different. Um, they had to arrange for a place to keep the mounts. It worked out fairly well. I mean, it's that is one of the fun big concerns with using stuff like that is where do you keep them? You sure can't bring them into the city. They worked out a deal. If one of the wyverns accidentally kills somebody, it's just going to cost a little extra for the inconvenience and the problems that the owner might have with morale for one of his employees getting eaten on the job. It's not always pleasant, even if you're an orc. Uh, they picked up a guide and moved into the city. So this city is essentially in a big pit, about a mile across. It has several different layers. Uh, moving between some of the plateaus within the pit, you're on a very shaky looking tram system. There are bridges where it's short enough to make bridges. It's a little bit segregated. You have a distinct commercial zone where you're first moving in. You have low end residential. And then as you get deeper into the city, you get high end residential and administrative. Also, the sand here is harvested. Part of the nature of the sand is you can extract minerals from it, um, iron, copper, pretty much whatever you need. But it's a very tedious process. It's very small amounts, but they're not sitting on top of an iron man or an iron mine or a gold mine. They need this process to keep things going, to keep their economy working. City's vibrant, uh, like you would imagine. The chaos of a street scene. People, different shops and stuff. Yelling at each other to be heard, telling their kids to come home or to stay away, uh, and just that alive feeling that you get from being in a hectic downtown. Huge food culture, kind of a Chinese street food scene with shops vying for customers and cooking there in front of everybody, and uh, a little cultural oddity where the tradition is to buy copper bowls from these shops, and you carry the bowl with you from place to place. If you can buy a little fried goat, roasted goat meat from this guy, and some vegetables from this guy, and mix them in your bowl and you know eat them up. uh, you also have uh, the wags. These are a class of people that aren't really warriors at all. They're hostesses. They work for tips. Um, their job, sometimes they're aligned with a particular shop, but basically they want you to come in. They're going to try to keep you entertained and keep you sitting there, keep you eating and drinking. Um, Now, this is probably going to roast my algorithm, but I'm not going to hide from it. Cities, there aren't just the clean cut, slightly sexualized group of people, that are winking and flirting. There's also a pretty significant portion of actual sex workers in the city, that are going to flock to any visitors. Um, and you mix this into an adult group. Don't do it with young people, for God's sake. But it creates that fun, interactive street scene that you can mix anything into. You can mix in, the pickpocket attempts or the exchange of information, or hey, I have a job, or oh, please, please help me, and you can just pile this stuff on as much as you wanted. I could have spent the whole session with them in just in this little section of the street with half a dozen different places for them to eat and interact with people. And role playing NPCs is one of my weak points. I am not a Matt Mercer. I have a limited ability to present all these unique characters the way he does. But if that's your strength, this is the kind of setting that you can just run with. I mean, having the shop owners and the cooks and the wags trying to pull you from business to business, and no, buy an ale from me, buy an ale from, I have whiskey, this, completely, just playing up the chaos of the street. So they ended up finding the temple of Halvoda Midragata. It was kind of a safe port. It was something they were familiar with. Uh, Not a very substantial temple. The temple staff was basically just a very low level temple priest, kind of keeping things going. Um, Very unsure of himself, getting thrown into this conversation with some extremely powerful people from a region of the world that probably know more about his god than he does. Uh, but he held his own. He stumbled a little bit, but he was proud of the work he had done. Building a temple from scratch and establishing a religion in a place that you know uh, that his religion wasn't necessarily always welcome. And he passed them on to a different temple that would have the information that the party was looking for. Um, and they may have made a friend there. They ran into this turtle cleric of that god I was talking about a minute ago, the one of Uh, dirty water. I'm making a mess of my notes here. Yes, from the descending entropy, Lermidin, the spoiler of clean waters. Um, and this guy's pitch, why should you trust me? You shouldn't trust me. Somebody else might have money too. Um, and he charged them 1,000 gold for the information that they needed. It's a bunch of money, but it's not really a drop in the bucket compared to the actual mission they were on, which I'll probably talk about later. But we're in the middle of that combat now. We weren't able to wrap it up in session, so we had to take pictures of the battle map, and we'll finish it out in a couple of weeks when we meet again. Um, so I want to be complete because I don't want to have to circle back around to this the next time. And really, we're at 36 minutes. That's not bad. To the person who is watching, I think there's just one. I see you. Their little face with a one next to it. So thank you for sticking with it. My name's Lewis Nichols, if you weren't here for the last introduction, and I do world building stuff mostly. Some of the other world building that I did, sorry, earthquake. Some of the other world building that I did for this area, I wanted to get a little feel for the economy, how the economy worked. Now, a lot of that has to do with refining minerals out of the sand. But there is also an industry in something that they call blaze steel. It's very low grade magical weapons. They are basically magical aura weapons. Um, they are magical. They are made to affect creatures that need a magical weapon to do full damage, although they do not convey bonuses. But they'll let you do full damage to you know well most demons, and that is the issue of the mission is they're chasing down a demon, and there are other demons and devils around. This whole region of the world is very well. That's the quest line. Is they've kind of joined this generational war of removing fiendish influences from the region. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but I am having a lot of fun with it because the good guys aren't necessarily good; they're just not demons. Uh, one of the players is constantly in a position he's defending devils. That you can work with them, you can make a deal with them, you can trust them. So far, they're not the greatest people, but they're beings that you can work with. Uh, that's his stance, and that's a lot of people's stances. Technically, it is illegal to summon demons or devils or any other kind of fiend in the Heston Authority, but it still happens. Anyway, aside from the blaze steel, there are chittles. I am certain that I stole that name from somewhere, but I haven't Googled where I stole it from yet. It's in my head, and it seemed to fit for what I wanted to do here. Chittles are basically grass seeds. They are edible. They're a little bit like eating nuts, and they can be used in various kinds of food. I look at them a lot like small peanuts. Very, very small peanuts. But you can cook them into a stew. You can eat them raw. You can do any of this stuff. And they are a high temperature food. Not like they wouldn't do well surviving one of these big nasty heat storms. But they actually depend upon them to properly germinate without help. People who farm them burn the seeds to germinate them for replanting. But They last a long time. They're easily transportable. They mix with fodder well to improve the quality of fodder for camels and horses and such. Um, and I like every setting that I create to create some kind of unique food. The party loves it sometimes. Sometimes they ignore it. You can't trust or depend. You can't let your psyche or your mental well-being depend on your players appreciating all the world building that you do. Um, I do this for me. This is why I enjoy the game. Um, to allow myself to be able to keep doing this, I run campaigns, and it's that interaction between my world building and my players that keeps things going for me. Um, that's the enjoyment I get, on top of the enjoyment of providing entertainment to others. And of course, there's just the flat out the camaraderie of it, and the jokes and the friendships that you build. All right. So what we got? Chittles. We have Blaze Steel. Uh, they do have other exports. Although I guess the only other one I wrote down was cinnamon, um, which is also harvested out of the sand. Uh, I see them processing the sand a lot like a recycling operation. Uh, you separate out what you can. You separate out the heavier metals. Uh, then you separate out the cinnamon. You separate out the other things that they're able to extract from it. Uh, and then there's the big job of hauling all that extra sand away. Probably 25 to 30% of the population of the town is involved in processing all this stuff. It's it's primitive and it's meant to be. Um, I wanted to portray these orcish cities as civilized, but in their own way. I didn't want this medieval feel of normal, uh, what we see as normal city life, but in some ways very foreign, in some ways amped up, and in some ways just removed entirely. Um, the biggest theme throughout the entire area was wanting to create a fish out of water experience for the players and um, an alien sensation for them to enjoy. So let's see what else do we have here? Did we ignore anything out of the notes? I don't think so. We may talk more about the campaign itself. I'm going to try to do more and more of these live things. It's supposed to be good for the algorithm. I wish, well, I was going to say I wish I could do it from my PC. I can, but it doesn't get the attention that this format gets. So that's one reason I'm trying to do more of these, is to attract more attention to the station. Uh, and all of this is viewable after the fact as well. So we're going to cut it there. It's going to take forever for this thing to process a 44-minute video, but yeah, whatever. It's just time. I don't have specific plans for my next live stream. I may do it as early as tomorrow evening. I don't know what the subject will be. As far as regular videos, I don't have any immediate plans for any more shorts content, but I do have a world building small islands exercise. It's all written, it just needs to get recorded. That's something that will probably be a Friday episode. I also have another meet in NPC episode. That also might be the Friday episode. I might release the other one earlier. I'm not sure. Last Friday was the first Friday I missed for regular shows for a long time, but you can tell I still have a little bit of a cough. Uh, I, there's a cold going around and it got me. I usually don't, but this one did. So I appreciate you all stopping by. I think I've had a couple of people on here watching this whole thing, so thank you. I appreciate it. Um, and if you can, hit the like button. I would love it if you could leave a comment. All of these things help so much in developing the channel. And if you've watched this much of it, I mean, you're getting some value. Uh, I appreciate you all very much. You're important to this world, and I'm glad you're part of it. I'll see you next time around. Cheers. And as usual, here we are looking for the off button. All right.